Hi, good evening. Carl Steinbeck here. Thanks for joining. Just want to talk tonight about today's hearing we had with Donna Adelson in court facing her murder charge for the killing of Professor Dan Markell, FSU law professor there over 10 years ago. And she's been in jail there in Leon County for over a year now. She's in Tallahassee there, and she's before Judge Everett today. And they had their first case management hearing. And Judge Everett on the 24th of October indicated to her new counsel, a Josh Zellman, and also a attorney by last name of Fulford, a female attorney last name Fulford, and they had been in court today for the first time. And what happened today was really quick. I was surprised how quick this all lasted. It didn't take very long, but it started out with this issue of the conflict, and there was the representation by Zellman that he had reviewed the entire file and looked for witnesses, and that there was not a single witness he had either represented or had consulted with. And so he mentioned witnesses, but I don't know if that included co-defendants or not, other co-defendants, i.e. other Adelsons or not. So that was sort of like a big takeaway for me. It's like, well, they're not listed as witnesses potentially, but anyway, I guess the bottom line is all of them were previously never consulted by any of the Adelsons, even though the Adelsons by name weren't said specifically. And then the same thing was backed up by Ms. Fulford, and she indicated that she'd never represented or consulted any of them. So by them, I assume she's talking about anybody's on the witness list. So apparently there is not a conflict that's going to be lingering out there, but the state also had some concern. They had a sidebar initially, and we didn't know what the sidebar initially was, but later on in the hearing, in this very quick hearing, that the judge asked the state if they had any other issues on the conflict, and the state prosecutor, there was a John Fuchs that was substituting for Georgia and Sarah. And so he just mentioned that nothing other than the items that we had mentioned earlier in the sidebar. So there was also a hearing that was supposed to happen in chambers, in camera hearing that was supposed to happen today. We don't know what that's about at all. So if something else is involving something that's very sensitive, they don't want it out there for the public consumption. And so the other thing that came up was the tentative trial date. The defense had indicated to the judge that the 16th of June up till the 2nd of July was a trial date window that had been worked out with the prosecution, and it's available for all the witnesses for this case. And then it was up to the judge. He indicated that he would have to check with his scheduler, which was the Mrs. Everett. So we don't know if that's going to totally work out or not, if the judge has some other family plans and some vacation travel. So it's not normal, from what I've been told, to have trials in the summertime there on the murder cases. They try to have them before the summer and at the end of the summer. So for this to happen in the beginning of June, I think shows that there's probably a desire to get this thing up and moving and resolved one way or the other. It's been dragging on with these Adelsons for too many years, as everyone that's been following this case to any detail can know. And so that looks like it's going to be another 7 months that Donna's behind bars. From her appearance today, it looked like she was sort of anxious, a little bit nervous, and looked like a little bit of anger too, I would say, from what I was picking up. But the February 11th is a discovery deadline that the judge mentioned. There's also a question about how many depositions the defense intended to do, and that Zellman indicated there was only a couple more depositions. He interviewed all the depositions of the previous trials, and but he had not talked to the state about any additional depositions yet. So that still remains to be done. They also brought up, the defense also asked if they could talk to a couple investigators that Rashbaum's team had hired to work on the case. And this had to do with the conflict. And they were wondering if they could talk to him with the judge's permission, if that'd be all right. But the judge said basically, isn't that the fruit of the poisonous tree as a conflict issue? And I thought that was the appropriate thing to do, because an investigator is always assigned as a part of the defense team, and so attorney-client privileges attaches, even though they're not an attorney. Being a part of a team as a investigator, everything that the team is, the attorneys are sharing among themselves can be shared with the investigator, and that's considered still privileged. So it's not considered weighed because you're talking to an investigator that's been retained to help you out. So with that, I think that also leads me to wonder. It's like, well, had they talked to Rashbaum at all, and anybody of the defense team to get any of the defense filed from prior counsel? And actually, Zellman mentioned he had gotten some limited files from the prior counsel, and so that sort of perked my ears. 'Cause I'm like, why would you be wanting to get files from conflicted counsel? Because that could make you conflicted. So in any event, he did say there was no annotations. So assuming there's no annotations, I guess it's okay. But that was sort of something that I would think that he would have just like completely stayed away from us having any contact whatsoever with Rashbaum, who's considered so tainted and conflicted that anything he touches is something you'd want to stay away from if you're new counsel. So in any event, what we have then is, that's a very short time for these attorneys to get up to speed on the case. They're going to have their work cut out for them. And but it can be done. They can be prepared. There's two attorneys that can divide their labor, circle back and confer about the evidence. So not everyone has to look over the same piece of evidence in their totality. And so I think that how this will be divvied up between the two attorneys remains to be seen. It looks like Zellman is the lead, and Fulford is sort of like a backup co-counsel. This is something that is typically done. There will be normally a lead and then a second chair, somebody just to help work the case, and also to have somebody to bounce ideas off of, because you do have the attorney-client privilege and you're preparing for a big case like a murder case. It is a good thing to talk to other people, get some other ideas that 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 makes you not be alone on an island, and maybe you can get into some kind of strategies and tactics that maybe not be the best, and you want to bounce them off other learned counsel that way. So putting these two together, then if they're not conflicted, then Donna should have good representation, and that's fine. I think the evidence is still rock solid against her, and I think they have their work cut out for them. I think that they do have the evidence about Donna on the wiretap is so convincing and compelling of her involvement. So however they try to spin it and saying she wasn't really involved with this, it's not going to really work. Here we have John from Cologne. So Cologne, Germany. Thanks for the nice wishes, all of y'all, and it's very nice. Leslie and I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and jump to some questions here. Like I say, it was a very quick hearing. It seemed like it only lasted about 5 minutes. So go ahead and put your questions in with reg emojis if you can. Otherwise, several question marks so I know which ones to try to pick out. Okay, Tracy Smith, you're saying, is it true the defense is still trying to block R8 from being a witness? I think you're talking about Dr. Rob Adelson from up in the New York area. I assume with this new defense counsel, they do not want him to testify, but how they can offer that is going to have to be some kind of novel defense theory. I don't think it's going to happen. Hopefully the state will have the courage to call him as a witness. Yeah, I don't have an intro jingle. I don't think I'll ever do that. Hospice nurse, you're saying Emily Baker is saying that she thinks Wendy has entered some kind of immunity deal. Hope that's not true. I don't see that happening at this point. As slow as this prosecution has been, why would you rush to cut immunity? And you normally don't cut immunity unless you've been charged. So there'd be no reason to cut immunity. And what would her immunity be? To shave off a life sentence and not whittle it down to 25 years or something? I just don't see that being a realistic possibility. Gerard, you're asking, hello, could it ever be argued by the defense that Judge Everett should recuse himself as he has prior knowledge of testimony and tactics in the Charlie trial? No, it actually is a benefit to the court to help administer justice and keep things moving along. And there could be very similar issues for the court to decide. For example, all the motions to suppress were almost identical as they were for Charlie as were as for Donna. So having the same judge on there helps bring about some consistency. It's more efficient for the court in their resources. So no, judges don't recuse themselves. Since there was 10 co-defendants, one after the other tried in the same court, that's not a problem for the judge to hear all that. Judges don't have conflicts like that. Yeah, so JC Wright, you're saying Georgia gets prosecutor of the year. It's taken a decade. Where are the warrants for Wendy and her dad? Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people that are following this case want to see happen, and rightfully so. I don't know about her being prosecutor of the year. Harmony Riki, you're asking what I think the in-camera hearing was about. And, it could be a follow-up to the issue that the sidebar was the conflict. And so what is the conflict that still remains? It could be the issue of defense is worried about all these other lawyers being subpoenaed to testify. They could also be worried about Rashbaum also being added to that attorney list. And, Rashbaum is very much in the crosshairs here for a lot of different things. So I think that him him being a potential witness is there. I don't think he's going to be called at all to testify as to what he told Donna about leaving the country or not. At least he's not going to be called by the state. I think that defense may try to call him, but that's going to be anytime you call a criminal defense lawyer, it's like really bad for the defense. It just looks really bad. It never comes out good. It's really rare, and it's pretty much unheard of. But if it happens, and here they're listing several defense witnesses, it's really to show that how these attorneys were, according to state's theory, it's going to be that these attorneys were acting in a way that only would indicate that they believe their clients were guilty. So that is compelling and relevant and probative. And without divulging attorney-client privilege, if we have an attorney like the David Oscar Marcus calling up Detective Isom and telling them things about Charlie, that's part of the case file now. So that's totally relevant. And if they want to talk about how they want to know if Charlie's going to be arrested and that kind of stuff, that could be determined by the judge to be more prejudicial than probative. But if it comes in, it definitely plants in the jury's mind that this is something that indicated that that the Adelsons were lawyered up and ready to try to defend themselves because they realized that the law was coming after them, and they realized that other folks were potentially flipping on them. And that's why, keep in mind, there was that other conversation that that Charlie's lawyer, I believe it was the Weinstein guy, that had contacted and talked to Katie McBanwaugh and was telling her that Charlie's not talking, the Adelsons are talking, so you don't need to talk either, and neither is your the father of your children. So that's the kind of like coordination that was going on behind the scenes, where all these co-defendants were sort of getting their lawyers to work in concert to try to make sure they're keeping tabs and keeping their mouth shut, so the prosecution wouldn't have anybody to flip. Matilda, you're asking if Charlie doesn't testify in Donna's trial, will she have to take the stand to tell her side of the story? Well, in American jurisprudence, as you might know, we don't have the defense there's no burden on the defense to come up with any kind of reasonable doubt. It's totally on the state or the feds, if it's a federal prosecution, to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And the defense could sit there and do nothing. They could sit there and not cross-examine any witnesses. They theoretically wouldn't even have to argue, but the state has to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And beyond a reasonable doubt basically means that it's something that you would reasonable doubt means something you would hesitate with regard to how you would act with respect to the most important affairs of your life. And so things like um, what kind what kind of house you're going to buy, what kind of career decisions you're going to make, who you're going to marry, those kind of things, or things that they're wanting you to reflect on when you're deciding reasonable doubt. So for Donna here, if she wants to tell her side of the story, the best way she could do it is to testify, obviously. But if you do testify as a defendant, as I've said before, the scrutiny of your testimony is much more analyzed and detailed by the jury. You do one thing as a defendant on a case, especially a murder case, wrong, you come across wrong, or they just don't like you. It can really backfire bad. So I think in this case, she probably will take the stand. Ultimately, in American jurisprudence, is up to the defendant, not to the lawyers, whether the client testifies or not. But basically, a lot of times the lawyers will advise the client and say, no, you don't need to testify. It's your call, but we wouldn't do it if we were you. And then, so a lot of times it's really truly not the client's call because the lawyers are steering the outcome on that. But in a case like this, where you got Donna's going to go down either way, I think the attorneys be less concerned about her not testifying and say, go ahead and get on the stand. And ultimately the jury can look at that as being, she sunk herself, and then the attorney sort of gets some top cover because they think about it. Donna can't come back and say, well, you didn't try my case well enough. And that's why we lost the case. The attorneys can come back and say, well, the jury didn't believe you, Donna. That's why you lost. So it wasn't our job. It was your performance, not ours. So in any event. C-Star, you're asking, so what do you think, Carl? How does she look and act? I think, she's overall, you can tell the year plus behind bars is affecting her. She looks like, she hasn't been out in the sun for that long of a period. So that can't be healthy. And the food quality is atrocious. So from a health standpoint, she's not doing that good. That's going to affect your mental status as well. If you're not getting out in the sun, getting any rec time, and you're eating bad food, you got a noisy cell at night. You have it's probably cold. You probably don't have enough sheets. And anyway, I think she's trying to keep busy with some arts and crafts and trying to befriend some of the other inmates there. But she's just got to do stuff to keep her mind from going nuts. Is basically what she's trying to do. Lauren Crime, you're asking the same thing about Donna testifying didn't work out so well with Charlie. I really do think that Donna thinks that, whatever she says, people are going to believe. That's sort of her mindset, the way things have worked in her life, I think. And from my experience with people like her, she's going to want to testify, and she thinks she can talk her way out of this. So just like she said, Wendy could put on the performance of a lifetime. She's great at acting. I think Donna would say she learned that all from her. So if she learned that all from her, then obviously Donna's going to think she's up for the same thing. And yeah, it didn't work out well for Charlie. Charlie was you couldn't ask for a worse testimony on a case, let alone a murder case. I've never seen such utter laughable testimony as what Charlie said. It doesn't get any more whacked out crazy than that. And that's why I knew the case was won. Even by the opening statement, I knew the case was won because Rashmam had nothing great to say about Charlie's defense. It was all just smoke and mirrors, crazy talk. Trish Norman, you're asking, does Wendy still have derivative use immunity? Yeah, she still has immunity, but not from the lies that she would have told at the previous trial. So they could still prosecute her for that, and rightfully should. Angie, you're saying, is there any way Rashmam could be smarter than what we think and strategically planned all this to enable Charlie to have another case, basically abandonment of mom, Donna? No, I think it's really what's going on is I think that Rashmam would not calculate the issue of having the state bar coming after him. And even though this could look that way from the outside, like, hey, maybe he tried to take a fall to help out the Adelsons. I don't think any attorney that's been around for a while would do that kind of thing. And so I think it's more a matter he just forgot what the rules were, forgot what ethical conflict standards are. And when you're getting, if you get paid an extra $1 million to not think hard about the conflict issue you're walking right into, then then you can basically check some of your common sense to the door. And I think that's probably what happened. So do I think it's strategically planned? No, I don't think that. And think about it, if Charlie does walk on this case because of the appellate issue, because of Rashomon's conflict, then where's he at? They're going to prosecute him all over again. So then Dales can blow another $1 million and start all over again. So, I mean, maybe in Charlie's sense, he's thinking, well, if I even might get 2, 3, 4 trials, it's worth it because there's always a better chance of a hung jury or something. But Charlie will never get out. He'll never see the light of day. His case is one of the easiest cases to win as a prosecutor. So he's never going to get out, and let him burn all that money. But would they need to have a good case that sticks and not let these conflicts come back and bite them? The two you're asking, Donna, is ordered to pay for all witness expenses of the last trial. Does this include air, hotel, food? It should include all those kind of things. That's normally what is part of the expenses for the state. So that includes the reimbursement of these witnesses for those travel expenses. So that should be the case as well. Yes. Julie Nielsen, you're asking, do I think the mid-June will really happen? They don't have discovery. I think it probably will, unless the judge doesn't like it because of something his wife planned. But yeah, they don't have discovery complete, but I think that they've looked over enough of it. They have an idea of what the case is about. And if they're only going to do a couple more depots, I mean, it shouldn't take that long to get up to speed. If you divvy up the work and critically look over the stuff, and you can look over the other trials to see what the other work was done by Rashbaum. And so you just don't have a whole lot to work with. Granted, there's a lot of digital evidence. There's a lot of PDF files, I'm sure, to go over. But so I think most of the discovery is there. They just have any final deadlines for discovery on the 11th of February. So I don't think there's going to be much more to produce at that point between now and then. I just think that the really the main guts of the case could be looked over within 2 months, and then all the preparation in the last 4 or 5. Darlene, good evening. You're asking, is Donna tied to Charlie's defense theory? I would say that I don't want to help the defense here at all, but I think Charlie's defense theory is going to come out in the trial. I'm not going to say exactly how that's going to be done, but I can tell you that the jury will know about Charlie's stories, his preposterous stories, and at least the main parts of them. And I think that you'll see the the conviction of Charlie will also come out in the jury. How the prosecution intends to bring that up. I think the defense has a lot of stuff that's just overwhelming, and I don't think they're going to be able to deflect and try to trick a jury into not seeing the truth for what it is. Keep in mind, the prosecutors have the truth on their side. Postpartum for days, you're saying, can you explain the purpose of an in-camera hearing? In-camera hearings are for issues that are very sensitive. They're more confidential, things of that nature that they don't want to have other people in the courtroom listening in. Maybe it's very embarrassing for a witness or an attorney. And maybe they all use for the in-camera hearing, they'll have the court reporter there. For a criminal case, they're not going to have the defendant there, but they just want to get something out. It's more like strategic discussions, tactical decisions, and discussions that are made between the judge and the attorneys. Keep in mind in the excuse me, was it Rashbaum's team? They were brought back for an in-camera review to see what kind of conflict issues they have for Judge Everett. And so anything that is sensitive and confidential would be the reason for an in-camera hearing. And so they're not that common, but on a case where you've got so many moving pieces in it, something like this case, it would be probably a normal thing and not a surprising thing when it happens. Sir Tedrick Walker, do I think Wendy will be arrested for Donna's trial? I think that the prosecution is probably slowed down from the looks of it. They don't have as much fire in the belly to be able to get these other Adelsons prosecuted. But I think they're going to have to keep building up the cases, evidence against Donna. And once they get Donna convicted, I would expect a quick turnaround in them to arrest Wendy and hopefully Harvey. But I think they're just doing one at a time, and as slow and painstaking and nonsensical as that is, that's just what we're going to be stuck with, because they don't have the, I guess, the bandwidth for whatever reason to do more than one Adelson at a time, which is really disappointing. Lauren Crime, you're saying, what is the possible rationale for not charging Harvey along with Donna? Insufficient evidence. If you look back some months ago, there was a video I did on the evidence against Harvey, and so you can make the case this was very much a Florida Adelson decision. They're all acting in different roles, and to say that Charlie acted alone and didn't have his mom and dad's help or Wendy's help would not be believed by a jury. And that's why I think they should charge as many Adelsons as they can at one time. If the court does split them up and say you can't have them tried together, at least have them one after the other, and finally get some justice for the Markel family. Okay, so Katie girl, you're saying Georgia got an award today, you heard? Yeah, I haven't heard that at all. Tracy Smith, you're saying, how did I like when the judge says, go ahead and take Ms. Adelson downstairs? You know what? They were, it was a quick hearing. They had other dockets to discuss, court statuses and whatnot. So these are not long drawn out management hearings. They're really done in rapid succession. And so they needed to clear the courtroom. So Donna being taken downstairs, I think she looked upset. I think she was, wanted to have the hearing last longer or something, but in any event, I don't, it's not a matter of me taking glee or anything like that. If I see a defendant upset or anything like that, it's just a matter of, you know what, it's just a matter of doing your work, and whatever discomfort the defendant has when they're guilty, it's like that's part of what they signed up for, so they got to own it. So Terry Walker again, you're saying how long will Donna's trial last? I think it's going to be about the same as Charlie's, but add a day or two, and I think there'll be more evidence to present. So I think it'll be another day or two of evidence to present. How the attorneys do questioning, some attorneys, what would shorten it up, I think, is the the direct examination of Charlie done by Rashbaum. I thought that was longer than what I think these attorneys will do for Donna, and so that was unusually long. I don't think they're going to do that, but it remains to be seen. Dog discussion. You're asking what I like to represent, Luigi Mangione. I think I can represent about most anybody in any kind of a violent crime kind of case. There's certain cases I will not represent folks on, and so ones that I'm too morally offended by, I would not represent somebody. For example, the burglars. I don't ever represent burglars because I think those kind of people deserve the max. So I would not represent burglars, especially when my grandma's place was being burglarized by the same guy a number of times. He wasn't getting enough sentences. So when I used to practice up in Iowa, I would not take on I would not take on a burglar. There's a few other type cases I would not take on as well, based on the just the fact that I I would not want to be involved in something I thought they deserve the maximum time if they're guilty. But that's the thing we can do as attorneys. We have to zealously represent those, including those that don't have the same values and interests in us. Unless we feel like we cannot zealously represent them, then we have a duty to recuse ourselves from that. So that's the kind of thing how it works as a defense attorney. And I'm probably real limited in that. I think most attorneys don't have those kind of limitations like I do, but that's just my personal preference, and I don't want my personal values ever impeding the defense of a potential client. Just me, you're asking would Donna be in general population at this point? Yeah, I think she would be. I remember she was initially on suicide watch and whatnot, but she's worked her way out of that. And so I would say that's going to help keep her mind in the game, because you can really hit the wall and really start going downhill mentally being incarcerated that long. Joanna Lynn, you're saying why do you think Donna had help getting out of the courthouse today? It looks like she's going downhill. Well, part of it, keep in mind, she had hand irons and leg irons. So when she was shuffling out of the courthouse, part of the reason she's shuffling and not walking normal is because those leg irons are making it so they cannot walk fast out of there. So I think part of that you got to take into account. But she does look like she's slumped over a little bit more and not looking like she was when we saw her at the Miami airport trying to flee the country. Jocelyn Pfeiffer, you're asking why on earth would Charlie want another trial as torture him? Well, that's what happens. People get convicted and they want to do everything they can fight to get the case reversed, and they're hoping maybe the prosecutor will just throw in the towel and he can get his life back. So that's what they believe, and but it's not going to happen in this case. Linda Mon, you're asking is jail in the basement? Basement scare me unless there's tornadoes. I would say that downstairs just means the fact that there's down to where the transport bay is for the defense to be hauled by van back to the county jail. So I think that's all he was talking about. Okay, Zach Sawyer saying since Donna could pass before trial, wouldn't it be smart to arrest Wendy now instead of waiting for her to testify? That way she will at least spend some time in jail. Well, I think that first of all, you don't absolutely need to have Wendy testify as a witness against Donna and or Harvey. I think that they have the evidence necessary to prosecute without Wendy's cooperation. And even if you did prosecute Wendy, make her use that as a motivation to get her to cop some kind of a plea. But I think that ultimately, unless somebody first decides to roll around another party, I don't think any of the Adelsons are willing to flip, especially if you go this one at a time approach. I think that's like the worst strategy for trying to get cooperation from different witnesses. Thanks, Kim, for your nice wishes. Happy holidays to everybody as well. Time's flying by here. JC, you're saying Charlie loves a new trial. He's the center of attention, thinks he can get out. Yeah, that's probably dead on accurate. Harmony, Ricky, you're asking, can the prosecutor call Rashomon as witness or that be overruled? It depends what they want to call him for. I think having somebody like Rashbaum and what he's been involved with on these two Adelson co-defendants, I think is more risky than it would be a normal lawyer because of the stuff that he's done and being conflicted and stuff like that. So I wouldn't trust him as a prosecutor. I wouldn't want him as a witness unless there's something really damning that that could be brought forth. But keep in mind, attorney-client privilege means that he can't talk about anything that his client said, what his client being Charlie or Donna, and even the issue about whether he advised Donna to flee the country or not. That that's something that prosecution is not going to call Rashbaum for. Defense could call Rashbaum. He would not like that at all, and I think they'd be looking at. He sort of I would be worried about him as a loose cannon. I would think if he does that, and so remains to be seen. It's sort of Florida. They do stuff differently. I don't get it, but some of the stuff is really really far out there. The two, you're asking if Donna doesn't testify and Charlie pleads the fifth, what happens? Well, the thing is, they still can get the story out there of the Adelsons and whatnot. Just the mere fact that they got the wiretaps, the bump, and uh, and all those phone calls going on. They also got some jail calls they can use. I mean, definitely shows that Donna's involved. They can prove that she was also involved by the fact that the way she was trying to get Wendy all fired up and whatnot. So you can also have Dr. Rob testify as to what the family was like before, during, and after this murder happened. I think that's very, very damning evidence that they would have for the jury that way. M. Ryan, you're asking, did I ever have a case where a defendant or witness said something in court that immediately caused a mistrial? So I've done probably equal number of military cases as I have civil criminal cases. And I have not ever seen a mistrial happen in any of my cases. No, not either as a prosecutor or a defense attorney. And I've been rotating among those positions numerous times over last 34 years. But I've not thankfully had have a mistrial as a prosecutor, and I have not seen one happen for uh, for a client of mine. Kathy says the best thing I was hearing today was that Donna will have to remain in jail for 7 months at least. Yeah, and that's assuming they don't ask for another continuance, right? So, yeah, 7 months is a long time when you've already been there over a year. Lindemon, you're asking, does the fridge issue Long John's? It's freezing in South Dakota. And so I would say, yeah, they do have it's sort of like a suit, a pajama suit that they issue to inmates, a one piece type of garb, and that's pretty much universal in all the jails and prisons I've been to in the United States, and also overseas in Europe and Guantanamo. All right, just jumping down here. Let's see. Debbie, you're confirming that Georgia was prosecuted here for state of Florida. That's why she was not in court today. So I guess she got that for prosecuting Charlie, right? Or and so maybe some other murder cases. I know she has a lot of murder cases, so I'll have to check that up later. Okay, the two you're asking, can Rashbaum talk to Harvey and have Harvey reiterate to Donna? Is that still an attorney-client violation? Must Rashbaum not converse with Harley also? I would say that, yeah, I would imagine that he's not talking to either one of them. If he does talk to either one of them, I would be surprised and shocked. But then again, given the past history, anything's possible. I would say normal attorney would not do that, but we're not dealing in a normal situation on this case in many respects. Jonas LaFonte, you're asking if Donna's eating kosher now that she's in jail. Yeah, she wasn't big on kosher before. She might be asking for it. I don't know if they're able to accommodate that. So I have not heard the answer to that one, but it's possible, given that's a larger county, and the jail has more inmate population than a small town USA kind of one. So that is possible. And I just don't have any personal knowledge of that, or this is the case or not. She probably would get better tasting food if she did that, because they have to work extra harder to make that type of food available. Hey, the two you're asking where is Leo the free range cat? They're all three hanging around here. It's a little bit colder now, so they're all inside, but they still go in and out all during the day. Linda Mont, you're asking, could I turn on the closed caption for us? I don't know how to do that, but let me research that and see what's involved in that. YouTube this has weird stuff going on. Like today, there was after I announced this, there was a couple comments in the chat that popped up. Then they disappeared, and then I didn't see any for a while. And then I said, okay, something's going on. So I canceled tonight's announcement, and then I restarted right away within a few minutes later. The issue still popped up, but it looks like it sort of fixed itself. So, and then in terms of like getting notifications, I know some of y'all, I hear that very frequently. It's like, hey, you hit the bell to get all notifications for this channel, and yet you may miss most of them. So that's a very common thing to happen. And I have several YouTube channels. Not that I'm publishing anything on or having any shows on or anything like that, but I noticed there that also that I don't get notifications on a lot of stuff that I'm putting out there that I also want to get all notifications for. So just to test it, and I noticed that that doesn't happen that way. Okay, Jules Goldstein, you're saying sometimes YouTube allows subtitles after live. Check settings. Yeah, we'll get on that and see. I think that's not the first time that's been asked. So okay, Clues Beekeeping, you're saying it isn't available. So Mary Binney, you're asking, do hi from Edinburgh, Scotland. I know John was just in Ireland the other day. And let's see, you're saying, do you think Donna was still crying over Rashbaum or she thought? I think that, yeah, that's probably painful for her to have lost Rashbaum. She's been dealing with so many years. He's so integral and tied to this case as a sounding board and giving her a lot of reassurance. And I would say I'm pretty positive he's not talking to her at all. So that is probably something that she's having a hard time understanding, and also how he just removed himself from the case. And I don't know if she heard about how in the hallway or elevator he talked about how he's basically, in essence, glad to be off the case as well. So Nicole Long, do I think Harley will be a witness? If not, why not? I think Harvey should be deposed at a minimum and just put on the hot seat and asked a lot of probing questions. And I would say that there is such a thing in America called the spousal privilege against self-incrimination. So anything that they talked about between themselves as a couple would not be admissible in court, but other actions and things of that nature, other than testimonies between themselves or statements between themselves, would be uh, relevant evidence. So yeah, make these Adelsons squirm. That's what I would think they'd be doing. But if they want to keep him out of the crosshairs for now until they do other Adelsons first, then maybe they want to have a cleaner slate and don't have to worry about that statutory immunity. That's very limited. It doesn't prevent them from prosecuting him for the underlying offense. But in any event, I just don't think that they'll probably call him as a witness, even though I think they should at least do a deposition for him. Okay, Gerard asking, can I explain the practice of seeking depositions prior to trial? Okay, depositions. I think most people know what those are, but just to give you the basics of them, a deposition is basically you get there with opposing counsel and pick a witness of who you want to uh, ask questions of. It's sort of like you're in court. You don't have the judge there, but you can make objections, and you're there to get evidence from that witness. And normally, you're doing depositions for witnesses that you think are against your client's interests. Those are the ones that are the ones that are The ones in fact, the ones you're most worried about hurting your case are a lot of times the one the attorneys depose for. And as you see from Rajpam, he hardly did any depositions. And so I think when you have flat fee attorneys, they're not going to do a lot of depositions. If you have hourly rate attorneys, you'll see a lot of depositions because that's how they're going to bill their money. So I think that's the general nature of it. And so the depositions, you can have not only a court reporter there to type it out, so you have word for word, everything transcribed, and you can study it later. But you can also have video depositions on top of that, where you can actually see the video and you can play it in person. I try to do as much video and audio as I can if I have prior testimony of a witness. But in any event, that's sort of the nuts and bolts of depositions. And then you can use that to impeach them. I've done that before where you have, they'll say one thing in deposition and then they'll say something different in court. Then you have a deposition to try to impeach them with as a prior inconsistent statement. So, Robin Hood, you're asking more of a comment, but can you imagine living the high life and then thinking you can get away with a read drum and that based on the shared custody being unacceptable, it still sounds like, yeah, I was thinking of that today. It's like, why couldn't somebody just say, we're not gonna resort to murder just because Wendy doesn't like custody arrangements that the court decided for her? And it's just baffling how much they wish they could erase that decision and those decisions. They had many days and months to decide. You know what? This is really a bad idea. It's not going to end well for us. Thanks, Linda Mon. I think that's what we're all here for, to help keep the Justice for Markells going, and especially the surviving boys and the surviving Markells in Canada. And Nancy, you're asking if Rashomon will be allowed to sit in the gallery at Donna's trial. Just curious. If he's not listed as a witness, then he could, but trust me, he's not going to be anywhere near that courtroom. He does not want to set foot in Tallahassee on any type of Adelson trial. He does. He does not want to be called as a witness. And if he shows up there, he's probably worried that he'll get roped into something like that. And keep in mind, he's from Miami. He's not. He doesn't want to sit there and see Donna, because it's going to also make Donna mad, because she's going to be sitting there thinking, "Why aren't you up here? I paid you all that money." Darlene, yes, I do believe it's easier to get a guilty verdict if all four had been tried together. Definitely. And that's something that at least try to go for that. If the judge breaks it up because there's too much diametrically opposed defenses, then so be it. But there's sort of like a compounding effect by having multiple family members all accused of the same crime, and there's a carryover spillage effect. And I've always said it sort of lowers the bar on how much you need to present for evidence, because there's that bleed over effect. Jonas Lafane, you're asking, could they have been charging the Adelsons all at once under the RICO statute? I think if they looked at some other stuff and there's other criminal activity going on with Charlie, I think probably Charlie you could. Whether all of them are involved in that, I doubt so. That's the case. But also need to go after the main guts of the case for this one, which is murder in the first degree, and that would have worked. So you wouldn't have to resort to a RICO type statute, but I think they could have brought something like that from for Charlie, from the kind of stuff he was talking about on those tapes. Yeah, Mary, just sort of already answered your question, but hi back to you there in Edinburgh, excuse me. Said that wrong. New Britain, Paul, you're asking, do I know Judge David Fleischer? And I do not. I do not know him, but I'll have to check that out. -5. Okay. The red question marks are actually emojis. The red question marks is where you find those. Yep, Darlene already asked that question. I don't know why that's coming back. Jill Argos, you're asking, is there any chance Charlie will not get a new trial? Well, I think there's a chance. I think that the issue with Rashbaum is such a shock to the justice system, and it's of a constitutional magnitude that if if the judges understand how Charlie was not getting um, unconflicted advice and how that could have affected the outcome of the case, then they could decide to go ahead and bust the case and send it back for a retrial. And if they look at it as something else and they think, well, Rashomon was conflicted, but we think the outcome really wouldn't have mattered, and we don't think Charlie would have had a discussion on pleading guilty or not with or without Rashomon. I just don't think that's the kind of analysis they would do, trying to do that speculation. I think they're just going to look at what's the nature of the conflict and what was the impact on Charlie getting zealous representation. So I hope it doesn't turn out that way, where it gets reversed, but it remains to be seen. I think it's they're taking a little bit longer than I thought they would, but it could take another couple months for the court acts on that motion for that Ufferman filed, asking for the relinquishment of jurisdiction back to Judge Everett. Yeah, I just don't know Judge Fleischer. So Jedrick Walker, you're asking, do I think these Adelsons will ever go against each other? I think if you start charging them, then I think that's the way you get people to start flipping, including those Adelsons. But if you're only charging one at a time, they're going to circle a wagon around who's ever charged. And then when they're charged and convicted, like Charlie, they're going to be looking at fighting on appeal instead of like saying, "Hey, what should I have done? Should I have like just cooperated and gotten a light sentence?" Looks like LJ's running around here, making noise. Yeah, Jocelyn, you're saying that, which a lot of people I see over the last 2 years say, like, well, maybe they're just holding off on Wendy because they want the boys to be raised. I've never heard of a prosecution office deciding to let someone be basically getting 15 years of freedom just because of the kid's sake. I just don't see that ever being a rationale. So I don't think it had anything to do with this case at all. Jeannie Garnett, you're asking if Jeff Lacasse will testify at Donna's trial. Absolutely, he's a star witness. I absolutely think he will, and he's a must witness. He really sets the scene. He's especially critical against Wendy. He is so damning a witness against Wendy. Nicole Long, yes, I think there's not a mother son privilege against incrimination. So I think that Dr. Robert Adelson, will provide good information against Don, and also sort of set the scene about the whole family dynamics. And I think that he would also be a key one to help bring down Harvey and Wendy as well. Let's see here. Jane Christen, you're saying basically with Wendy, Texas feds could and should take over the case. Could they, Carl? I mean, they always can, but I just don't think that they will at this point. I just don't think they will. So I think it's going to be up to Campbell's office, and I think they will. It's just a matter of the slow snail's pace effort that they're doing. Thank you, Edward Tozer. That's nice of you. Appreciate that. Yep, LJ's full grown now. Someone's saying CC's on the top of your screen or something. I'm not sure what that mean. Yeah, so Jules, you're saying you don't get YouTube notifications. Yeah, that's oh, so I get Robinhood, you're saying people need to allow notification on their phone's app settings on YouTube specifically. Okay, I'm not aware of that, so thanks for that tip. But it's not on my phone because I get them on some channels once in a while, but not consistently. So I think it's more of a YouTube problem. All right. So closed caption at the bottom of your YouTube window on the same line with pause, volume, etc. Okay. Thank you. If you have a top right wheel, okay, you're saying if I have a top right wheel drop down menu. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. Sorry. Sir Tedrick, you're saying, do I think the Latin Kings will greenlight a hot on Charlie that will be carried out, a hit on Charlie, I think you mean to say, will be carried out before other Adelson's trials? I bet Wendy hopes so. It's always a possibility, or some other gang, and Charlie is going to say something to the wrong person at the wrong time. All right, thanks for you guys' different advice on setting up closed caption. I'm just gonna move on to this other stuff, but I don't know if you guys can hear that, but LJ is making a lot of racket over here, climbing in a closet. Okay, Tracy's saying she agrees. Why would you want to get anything from Roshbaum? Yeah, that's um, it's a real high risk thing for the prosecution and the defense. Yeah, let's see. Janie Garner, you're saying, do I think the Elsons have other very dirty deeds on their belt? Well, just what Charlie talked about, and so I would say that by dirty deeds, I mean mean criminal activity. So I think that there's that issue about the 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 selling of foreclosed real estate and having some kind of straw man buying thing that Harvey and Charlie were doing, and so that was reported to the FBI by Patty's Playhouse, and so I don't know what that's gonna if that how that's gonna play out, but this is definitely not the first time somebody thinks of something doing something criminal that when you resort to a murder. That's my general belief. So Rosemary Romero, Donna was talking to people outside of jail about the case. Could those conversations be used in trial? Yes, they could. Okay, Shiraz, you're telling us about this Judge Fleischer. He's a misdemeanor judge in Harris County, which is Houston, Texas. He's known for scolding defendants and has a YouTube channel. Okay, never heard of him before. Thanks for clarifying that. Child time manager saying leave Robert out of these strange family's madness. Let's get on with Donna's trial. It's taking far too long since Charlie's trial. Get on with it. Check status for February. Early trial, please. Status check for trial. Apparently in February, you're thinking, but I would say yeah, it's a very inconvenience for Dr. Robert. Adelson if he had to testify, but if he can provide that critical information, why not? And so I think it'd be tough on him, but he's willing to do the right thing. So why not use that as a prosecutor? Dina, no, I won't be playing the clip from today. I have not done that on this at all on this channel yet. Darlene, yeah, I think Robert Adelson will be Dr. Robert Adelson will be on the witness list again. Whether he's called or not is the question. Yeah. Yes, Rochelle. Jack Campbell's been running unopposed, so that's he's not feeling any heat from any opposing. I think the time before last he had some folks run against him, but not just last time. Shiraj, you're saying anything touched by Rashomon is radioactive, stay far, far away. Yeah, that's a term. I used that term before here. I agree with that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and we're at 5 minutes after 9. We've been doing this an hour, so I think I'll take one last question here. Yeah, the 2 you're saying that this June 16 court date will begin once again to give Markel some hope. As angry as we are, imagine their dismay. God bless them. Yes, but keep in mind we don't have a set court date yet. That's just something that was agreed to by the prosecution defense, but the judge still has to okay that, so it's still up in the air. Bugs Bunny's Barney, you're asking what is the approximate time for an appeal like Charlie's? Well, they're trying to do this initial decision on this relinquishment of jurisdiction back to the trial court judge, which is Judge Stephen Everett. And so this could take, if they don't act on that, this could still take 1.5 years, and they could just deny that and move on to the actual full hearing. I just don't think they have enough information about this conflict with Rashbaum. And I think if there's a hearing on it with the trial court judge, I could see the attorney Ufferman and his legal team calling Rashbaum as a witness and trying to show that what a terrible job he did representing Charlie on as to this conflict of interest issue. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight. You all have a great rest of the week, and have safe plans for the holidays, and have a great night. Take care.